Much. Senator Marshall.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Ranking Member. I'm sure everybody in this room knows that since 1933, this Farm Bill, which was authorized about every 5 years, helps provide affordable, safe, reliable food and fiber for this country. And it's not lost upon me that as I look around the room and see the portraits in the room, that Senator Pat Roberts' legacy stares over all of us. And this is the first Farm Bill in 40 years when his boot prints are not going to be all over it. But I certainly want Kansans and America to know that this is every bit as important to me as it is to him. And as I promised him, I'll make sure that as the father of crop insurance, that we'll be protecting that. So I think about, in so many ways, this Farm Bill is important to Kansas and our guest today, that it was in 1953, a farmer in Cheyenne County, Kansas, Peter O'Brien, stood up at a Kansas Farm Bureau meeting and said, we can help people overseas, that we can give food for peace. And we're so proud that that program has continued. Another Kansan, President Eisenhower, signed that into law shortly thereafter. And of course, I believe this is the 21st anniversary of the Dole-McGovern bill, which helps provide food for education. So we appreciate you all helping us carry those legacies forward. Now, on to some tough questions. Forgive me. First, a couple are for Undersecretary Taylor. This is a two-part question. The first part, I think, is a yes or no answer. But before you answer it, I'll give the second part. Does the Biden administration believe that Mexico has a right to exclude genetically modified U.S. corn from its market under the terms of the USMCA? And the follow-up question is this. The Biden administration has triggered USMCA's dispute resolution system 6 separate times to complain about Mexico labor conditions. In the meantime, the administration has refused to trigger the USMCA to contest Mexico's planned exclusion of American corn. Madam Secretary, our farmers feel like that this administration is putting Mexican assembly workers ahead of farmers. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for to trigger this mechanism? I'm tired of talking about it, forming committees and praying about it. We think it's time for action.
Senator Marshall, thank you for those questions. I think first and foremost, under USMCA, we have, from the Biden administration, been very clear that their ban on, or proposed ban on genetically engineered corn does not live up to the science-based standards that were housed within USMCA. 2 weeks ago, on my third week on the job, I traveled to Mexico with Ambassador McCaleb to have these conversations directly with our Mexican counterparts. This is a fundamentally important question to how the USMCA was built, but also the global trading system around.
So I'm back up. Do you feel yes or no the Biden administration believes Mexico has a right to exclude genetically modified corn, U.S. corn, from its market under the terms of the USMCA?
We do not, sir.
Okay. Next question, again for Secretary Taylor. Before the 8th Circuit, attorneys for the Justice Department suggested that the USDA are not experts on the use of pesticides. They use this argument to try to convince the 8th Circuit judges to ignore Secretary Vilsack standing by the science in a letter to members of Congress. Will you stand up to the Justice Department and emphasize that we do feel like we have experts in this area in USDA?
Senator, we do have experts on this within USDA. I know many are under Secretary Moffat's purview. We work closely with them as we are working bilaterally with trading partners around the world on these issues that are impacting U.S. agricultural trade.
Well, Secretary Moffat, then how do you feel about the Justice Department basically slapping you all in the face and say that USDA doesn't understand the science?
A lot of what we're doing at APHIS is really engaging in, as Undersecretary Taylor said, really in the bilateral conversations with other countries on making sure that what we're doing and implementing is science-based and that we're following the science. We, of course, and Secretary Vilsack talks a lot about how important the science is, whether that is with our trading partners, whether that is in the domestic industry. We continue to stand by the science and have robust conversations across the administration with science and at the forefront.
Okay, last question. I'm not sure which one of you can answer this, but when it comes to food for peace, in 2010, we were giving commodities as opposed to cash about 10-1. And now about 2/3 of the aid is in cash rather than U.S. commodities. Can someone just kind of explain justify that, where we're going, why are we giving cash instead of commodities?
So about 30% of our Title II is U.S. sourced in-kind commodities. The other cost, it's not about giving cash instead of those commodities. It's really the cost of managing those programs, including significantly increased shipping and transportation costs to move those commodities.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I'd like to submit for the record a document from CRS that shows that 2/3 of the money is now being given as cash rather than U.S. commodities. Thank you.
Without objection. Thank you. Senator Welch, again, welcome to the committee. It's good to make sure that Vermont's